To call this meeting to order, would you stand with us for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next up is roll call. Would you sign in, please? Holly?
All counselors present, with Counselors Griego and Stefano previously requesting to be excused.
Thank you. We'll move on to the agenda approval. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Holly?
We actually will be removing item C1B from consent and putting it under regular business, as Counselor Coleman is going to recuse himself.
Removing C1C, you say?
C1B.
Okay. Chair will entertain a motion. Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that we approve the agenda, removing item C1B from the consent calendar to regular business, as well as excusing Mr. Stefano and Mr. Griego from this meeting.
I second.
I've got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on consent calendar A? Seeing none, start voting, please. Holly?
The motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. We will then move on to citizen comment. Alamosa City Council welcomes your comments. Citizens wishing to speak may obtain and complete a speaker card through the city clerk at the start of the meeting. I have a few cards here today. Please be reminded, this is a 3-minute time period. Please approach the podium. Give us your name. Your address is optional. And we will, you can start your comment period. I will start with Mrs. Worley, Debbie Worley.
Good evening. My name is Delzia Worley. My address is 6600 State Highway 17 here in Alamosa. I just wanted to bring to your attention that one of the items that you're going to discuss tonight for the request of Jess Caton for the permitted use, that I am in favor of that project moving forward. The building where they're going to be has been vacant for a long time. I think it's good for our downtown. Jess has been a great business partner. I work at First Southwest Bank, and it's been a good relationship. He has good clientele, does a good job keeping the area clean. So I just wanted to let you know I am in favor of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next card I have is for Cindy Orringdolf.
Hello, everybody. So my address is, my name is Cindy Orringdolf. I'm used to being on the other side of this. Cindy Orringdolf, I live at 3009 Adcock Drive. And I am here to talk to you guys about the land at the end of our street that was so graciously donated by CRHDC for a park. Currently, on our street alone, we have 31 children under the age of 15. And on the other two neighboring cul-de-sacs, there are, if I remember correctly, I think there's 63 between those other two streets. And I know it's not anything on the agenda right now, but we are eager to get that park in. Our kiddos love to play outside. We'd like a safe place for them to play. And we all know that having children play outside is far more beneficial than our children being inside, just sitting with a screen. As an educator, outside playtime is huge. It's a big factor in brain development, social development, and even learning to, especially with these kiddos, because everybody's new to the neighborhood, learning to coexist in that neighborhood together. They've all come from different parts of town where we didn't have neighborhoods. Some of us lived out in the middle of nowhere without a neighbor, within a half a mile of us. Some of them are from apartments. So outdoor play is huge for the street. If you come and visit at any given point, unless it's, from maybe 12 to 2, you won't see kiddos outside because it's so hot. But we would love, love, love to have a park down there. And most of the neighbors that I've spoken to would like to propose that because we all built our homes. So we know what it's like to put in that hard work. We would be more than willing to work together with the city in putting that park in. I think it's just kind of that final piece to the puzzle that we can say, hey, we built our own homes and we helped build the park in our own neighborhood. And I think that would be really, really neat. So thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Next up, we have Coral Heartless. Coral, welcome. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
You did. So my name is Coral Heartless, and I'm the executive director at La Llave Family Resource Center. And it's a consent item. La Llave is wanting to move from its current location, and we have been blessed to outgrow our current location. It was there for 19 years on State Street across from Atencio's Market. And with our programming, we have increased our staff from the 4 full-time staff members that were there when I took over to we currently have 20 staff members. And we need the extra room, we need the parking and that type of thing. But I just wanted to share, we offer so many different things, actually not only to the city of Alamosa and the county of Alamosa, but we offer them to the San Luis Valley. And we offer parenting classes, we offer home visitation for children 0 to 5 and for school readiness, and we offer some Colorado Community Response, which is helping people who may have touched the child welfare system and keeping them out of that system and giving them some positive reinforcements. So things that La Llave is currently doing that maybe people hadn't heard about in years, that La Llave is growing and supporting the community, and we have fantastic community partnerships with Early Childhood Council and Human Services and behavioral health and some of those places. So I just wanted to share briefly, since it will be a consent item for La Llave to be able to move into a new building with better space. I just kind of wanted to share some of the programming that we do here in Alamosa and for the county and the valley itself.
Thank you, Coral. Next up, we have Mary Jane Valdez.
My name is Mary Jane Valdez, but I'd like to consider if we could bring Felix Valdez, because we're pretty much dealing with the same issue. Is that
you.
possible for us to do this
Absolutely.
together?
Please.
Thank you. Okay, my name is Mary Jane Valdez, and I think it's been about 5 years ago that we have had these meetings considering the drug and alcohol problems in the San Luis Valley, and actually epidemic that's happening over the nation in terms of drug and alcohol addiction problems. And as you know, that most inpatient treatment programs are costing anywhere from, I'm saying minimum $5,000 up to as high as $30,000. And so I have worked with parolees and different individuals that have had a real difficult time in terms of reintegrating into community. And so I did a sort of a project with the parole office where I felt that if we could have sort of a sober living communities, which is a very common theme for sort of, it's more of a less structure than an inpatient treatment program with the right kind of support, counseling, random UAs, things of that sort, that individuals with a very reasonable rate of, it's actually like kind of renting a room, which would be what we average is anywhere between $250 to $350 a month per person. And then kind of walking them through the rehabilitation process of getting jobs, having a secure income and things of that sort, a roof over their head and things of that sort. So at the time that we put this together, 1318 Main has always been a residential facility. It's got, I think, total of around 7 rooms. Is that right? So we thought that would fit kind of a really good model for us. And then I went ahead and purchased 2 more homes, which are 2302 and 2308 Stockton, which is over sort of by Excel Energy. It's that little road, and it's kind of got, it's sort of by the, I can't remember what that cabinet place is called. High what? Highland Cabinetry. So what it is, it's sort of a way to get people help in a reasonable way. And so because there's 2 or 3 people living together that aren't related, it's considered a group home. And so what I'm here to do is to, first of all, ask if you would consider, I think it's a very, very good program because they're able to, number one, have the support they need and also have the housing they need at the same time and the services they need. So hopefully we can get a really good recovery program going for them. At this time, we've had a lot of successes. We've had some failures, to be honest with you. It's a very strict program. If they do go back to drinking or drugging, they have to leave. So that's one of the criteria. So it's a safe environment because it's being monitored. And right now, 2302 and 2308 is being run by the Alamos Christian Church. Is that right? Church of Christ. And altogether, there's 4 rooms in one house, the 2302, and there's 3 in the back, and they're all in the same kind of lot. Plus, we have 3 different lots that have been subdivided because of the idea that maybe it can grow into more residential areas for these, what I would call individuals that want to get help but don't have the resources to get the kind of help they need. So what I'm asking you to consider, well, right now we got an actual rejection on the 1318 Main, that it's in a commercial district place or business district or whatever. But I was a little bit confused about it because if you can go down Main Street, you can see where most of the businesses have a residential place right on top of them. I don't know if you've noticed that, but there's at least, I would say 8. So I don't know for sure how that got accepted by the city because it is a business district as well as a residential on top. So I'm not sure if there's a different criteria for that. But what I'm hoping you can do is consider these properties to be used as, I guess they would be considered by you guys what's called group homes because there's individuals living together under the same roof and using it in terms of both. I'm going to go ahead and request if you can consider, even if we have to have a separate hearing, for 1318 Main and then the 2302 Stockton, 2308 Stockton as this, I would call it a transitional facility for helping individuals get on their feet again. Shane has actually been in there 3 years.
I think it's been 3.
He's progressed pretty well. Is that 3 minutes?
6 minutes.
Okay, he's progressed really well in terms of, if you want to just comment what it's done for him and where you're at now because of that sober living environment, if you don't mind.
Mary Jane, there's a 6-minute time limit.
Yes, sir.
How much time do you have left?
We try to stay within that time period. How many minutes did? 2 minutes?
2 minutes.
Thank
I'll
you.
be brief. Thank you, City Council. It's nice to see all of you again. As Mary Jane said, I've been at the Alamosa Sober Living House as a manager now for about 3 years. I've seen a lot of successes come in and out of the House. We've had people that have come in from corrections, probation, and a couple of people off of the streets, and I have seen some very good successes with people that have lived at the House. We do regular UAs, we do random breathalyzers, and I have a contract that the members of the House have to sign as a condition of living there. They have a curfew, they have to be in by a certain time, and if they're not, they have to provide a work schedule to show me that they are working and past the curfew hours. But it's a very productive environment, because when you have a bunch of sober people struggling for the same thing, they tend to band together and become a unit, as four individuals might do in that kind of a setting. And I've seen some amazing transformations, and I've also seen some failures. Unfortunately, there have been a few more failures than successes, but I have seen some very significant successes in people that have been released back to the community, to their families, to their wives and children, and to their sober lifestyle outside of that house. I consider that place a stepping stone, and a very important stepping stone for somebody that is trying to achieve sobriety and maintain that. It gives them that opportunity to move into the real world and be able to accept the challenges and things that life can present. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. We will,
Felix Valdez. My name is Felix Valdez, and I'm glad to see that the council's attorney is here. That way I don't need to be so careful as to what I say. I wanted to clear up a few misconceptions. The residence that my wife and I owned was, according to the assessor, built in 1916. It's 100 years old now. And I understand that the earliest zoning regulation by the municipality of Alamosa was sometime in the 30s. So the residential nature of that residence has always existed. Now, the bottom floor of the residence has been used as both a residence and a business. The person that we bought it from, Dora Hallam, lived there and also ran a real estate practice out of there. Then we have had a series of tenants. Those that were running a business were a lady that had the Happy Feet business in the front, but then she also resided in the back. There are two residences at that building, the upstairs residence and the downstairs. The upstairs residence has always been used as a residence. Another business that occurred out of there, where both the business and the residence was occupied by the bottom floor, was a fortune teller business and a photography business. The people that were in that residence used it both as a residence and a business.
Mr. Valdez, thank you very much for your comments. We are going to ask staff to look into this, and we will get back to you on this issue, but at this point in time, time has expired. So we appreciate your comments, and we will look into that. We'll ask staff to do that. Thank you very much, sir.
Mr. Chairman, can I make one more comment?
One more comment, sir.
I purchased that residence, or me and a series of attorneys purchased that residence for a purpose of setting up a law office, because we thought there was going to be a lot of water litigation. But then it didn't materialize, and they dropped out. And so I kept the payments up under an alter ego, which was called Altanero Enterprises Incorporated. In 1989, I changed the name of the residence so that it would be owned by both me and my wife. I have nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Valdez. The next card I have is for Pam P. Cipher.
Evening, y'all. I'm Pam Pfeiffer. I reside at 2302 Stockton. I am the assistant on-site manager of the houses. Have been since we opened, and Mary Jane graciously gave them to us at a very reasonable price. This community has came together, and I'm very proud of the community. They realize we have this awful drug and homeless problem, and people have pulled together, doctors, nurses, Mary Jane and counseling, the Church of Christ, a lot of people in the community. And we've had over 52 women that were hopeless and homeless. Some of them make it, a lot of them don't, but the ones that everyone leaves with something more than when they came in. They leave with a greater respect for life and the community, and it's awesome to see the ones that do make it. I just would ask that you would pitch in with us as a community effort and help us. This is an awful problem here in the Valley. It really is. Last I heard, 2 out of every 6 children born in our hospital are born addicted. This is serious. The teachers don't know how to handle it. We as a community don't know how to handle it. So for the people that do try to get in there and do something, I'm thankful. And I thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Pam. The next card I have is for Ruthie Brown. Ruthie?
You having time? All right, Holly. Good going, Holly. My name's Ruthie Brown. You know that I live at the Green Spot and sleep in the country. And thank you for letting me come. I did ask to be on the agenda for tonight, but was told that because the city manager and the city lawyer weren't here to respond to me, that I would have to be on the agenda next week. So, or 2 weeks from now. So I'm abbreviating some things. And first of all, I want to say thank you for staging emergency vehicles on the south side during the long trains. Before emergency vehicles were staged down there, I had been told that response time was fine and there were no worries, and we could just live with it. But I personally came within minutes of having a man die in my arms, literally bled out in front of the Green Spot. A train being there wouldn't have saved his life, but his wife watching ambulances blocked by a train would not have been acceptable if it was my grandpa or your dad or something. So knowing the fire engines and that sort of thing were down there was a huge, huge relief for everybody. Second of all, I'd like to thank you for the city has let me use their water in my mom's garden, and Mom's Garden is really taking shape. I've had friends, I've paid, I've had volunteers helping. It's cost me a lot of money. I do appreciate the city's water, and I use it very judiciously, and that garden is going to do nothing but become more beautiful. I would like to ask City Council for, and I've been told no before, for the boulders that were bulldozed from the Monterey Cafe area. They were boulders and rocks that I put in on a CDOT project. I'm not quite sure why they were bulldozed, but they match the ones I used in the whole project. And what would it hurt? It would help me finish out an entryway into Alamosa without spending another couple $1,000s of my own money. So if you could look into that, they're sitting in a pile someplace out by the city shops. Next, as the city does their comprehensive plan, I would like to see, and I'm requesting that my neighborhood gets added to the business district. We have been treated like secondhand citizens for years. I plant flowers in recycled trash cans. We don't get banners, and even when we ask for banners, through the grapevine we're told no, but there's absolutely no communication on why we can't be included in the rest of the town. We have a pretty south side, and there's 8 businesses within about 2 blocks. So I think if we're gonna have a vision, let's have a big vision and let's include us. I know we're looking at some remodeling and things like that, big stuff. But we can't get a facade grant from the city of Alamosa for $2,500 because we're not in downtown. Enough's enough. I'd also like to see, a few years ago, and there were other issues on the ballot, that property owners in Alamosa should be able to vote on city issues. We can't even volunteer to be on a committee. We can't volunteer to serve our town where we live and pay taxes. And I think it's time to revisit that. And I think it's time for the city of Alamosa to put their power behind that. And if we're paying taxes and property taxes in Alamosa, we should be able to vote. And please, my kids tell me that I should get more with honey over vinegar. But you know what? I'm tired. I've tried honey. I've tried honey off and on for 30 years, and it doesn't work. And so I do get bitter, and I get tired. There's a lot of things in Alamosa that, in my humble little opinion, are not being done. And so I would ask all of you to gather me with you in the next 2 weeks so I can take you for a quick tour on why I'm going to be on the agenda in 2 weeks. We need to do better in Alamosa. I can't do honey anymore because I have too many questions. The guys on the streets, Public Works, thank you, Pat. All I have to do is look at those guys and they'll bring me some safety cones to use. And Solomon and Jeremy, I have to say, hey, what's going on here? And they talk to me. But I don't get that everywhere, and enough's enough.
Ruthie, could you wrap it up, please?
Yeah, I will there, Joseph. And I'll wrap it up with this, Joseph. I want to live in a city where when I send a letter to the city of Alamosa asking them to designate a day for a young boy who's very ill, that our city comes back to me and they say, our policy doesn't cover that, but let's make it happen. And I did not get that from the city of Alamosa, and it still appalls me and saddens me to this day. And when I'm told that if we give Jaden Rogers a day, we might have to give Peyton Sanchez, or no, we might have to give that Sanchez kid a day. For crying out buckets. That Sanchez kid and his family donated $3,000 today to Ronald McDonald House in Houston, where they have stayed for over a year. I get a little vinegary and I write a letter, and sarcastically name myself a queen in my own mind, but why did I have to do that? And you don't have to answer any of my questions. I'm just going to, in my own little way, work with the Operation Pride Club Tuesdays and Thursdays, 1 to 3, cleaning up my city, because it is my city, even if I live in the sleep in the county.
Thank you, Ruthie. Staff, is there any follow-up specific to any of the other items? Probably about the housing, maybe the park. Do you have any, or would you just like to take that under advisement and visit with our city manager and our attorney when they get back?
I'd rather just visit with them and get back to you on those. We have sent letters specific to several of the comments that were made tonight, and the park over on the west side of town is one of the considerations in the comprehensive plan. So some of these things are working in the background as we speak.
Thank you, Pat. We'll then move on to ceremonial items. Tonight we have the introduction of a new IT technician, John Martinez. Thank you. Jim, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. I'd like to introduce John Martinez, the newest member to our IT team. He comes to us after living here in Alamosa for 3 years, working for the Alamosa School District as a technician. And prior to that, he was in Phoenix, Arizona. John?
Well, you took all of my whole minute I had. Yeah. For 2 years, I worked at Alamosa School District, dealing with a large fleet of computers, so I can deal with large volume. Prior to that, I did web design for what's formerly Valley Health and Fitness. And prior to that, I have an unfinished engineering degree from University of Central Florida. But I'm glad Jim brought me on, and I hope to alleviate some of the pressure on their shoulders and expedite the process of moving into Monte Vista.
Thank you very much, John.
Thank you.
Council, would anybody like to make a comment or ask questions? Councilor Coleman.
Thank you, Mayor. John, I would like to welcome you to the Alamosa team.
Thank you.
Jim and Brendan have said a lot of great things about you already before you even started. So we're looking forward to having you on our team. And once again, I've heard a lot of good things about the intergovernmental agreement between Monte Vista and what's been going on there and other towns nearby that eventually would like to participate. And I think you're going to be a great resource to help make great things happen in our community. So welcome aboard.
Thank you, Chad.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Thank you, John. Welcome. Jim, I guess he's already working for you.
Already on board, been here a couple of days, and we expect great things of him.
Thank you very much, and welcome. Next up, we have consent calendar A. The consent calendar allows multiple actions with one motion. Consent calendar A contains routine items which have been recommended for action by staff or advisory boards. Council may remove a consent calendar item for separate consideration. Tonight we have quite a few. Approval of the minutes for the July 6, 2016 meeting. Received the June 2016 monthly reports. Received the June 2016 expenditure report. The request of Carroll Properties LLC for a permitted use by special review to allow a multiple housing dwelling using use group R-4 in a commercial business zone. A request of Leroy and Rosalie Martinez for a permitted use by special review to allow outdoor, is that something else? That one's out, sorry. Request of La Llave Family Resource Center Incorporated for a permitted use by special review to allow professional and business offices use group C-31 in an industrial zone district. Request of, is that all as well? Request of Mary Jane Valdez for a permitted use by special review to allow a group home use group R-5 in a residential medium zone district. The award of bid recycling center building an endorsement letter recommending Councilor Hensley to serve on the CML Executive Board, and extend the Stillwater brokerage agreement. Council, do we have any comments, questions? Councilor Daniel.
Thank you, Mayor. I do just want to clarify that the request of Mary Jane Valdez is the Stockton ones that she was talking about during public comment and not the Main Street one.
Thank you for that clarification. Councilor Coleman.
Mayor, I also want to confirm that item C1B from earlier, you all mentioned that you removed it from consent calendar A, so I can vote on this consent as it is. Okay.
Thank you, Councilor Coleman. I don't think you need to leave. Okay, very good. Councilor Vihil.
Thank you, Mayor. Just, I would like to ask Pat if you could elaborate more on the recycling center and that proposed building that we might get. Thank you, Pat.
I have a pile here. Give me just a second. Okay, this is a building that was approved in the budget last year to cover the material baler and the new glass crusher, to keep them out of the weather. With the prices that $50,000 was budgeted for the building. With the prices that we received, we extended the building a little bit to give room to park forklifts, skid loaders, things like that, and get essentially everything out of the weather down there. We won't be pouring a floor in it this year, but we'll be able to pour the floor next year. And the $2,087 that's over budget, I'm proposing to take that from my regular operating line item at the recycling center to pay for that additional fund.
Thank you, Pat.
Are there any other questions, comments concerning the consent calendar? Councilor Hensley.
So I go ahead, if there's no other comments or questions, that we move to approve consent calendar A with everything except for the one that we took out, which was C1B.
I'll second that.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second on the modified acceptance of consent calendar A. Are there any further questions, comments? If not, start voting, please. Ms. Hawley?
The motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. We'll move on to regular business, presentation from outside agency, CRHDC. CRHDC. Thank you for being here. Please.
Thank you for having me. My name's Janet Lucero, and our office is located at 1016 West Avenue here in Alamosa, Colorado. And I am here on behalf of Community Resources and Housing, basically to give you an update on everything that we've got going on with our programs. Right now in the Montana Azul, right off Craft, we've started development there. And next week, they're supposed to start paving the streets. We're just so waiting for that. We currently have 4 homes in Phase 5, which is on that north side of the other Montana Azul, and we have 1 home that is also going up on Phase 4 on Adcock. We will begin another group. We're hoping in August we'll have another 5 that'll be starting in Phase 5 where we're developing. Other things that we have going on is we also are doing, we're building a modular home with a 2-car garage in San Luis. That program is about 50% complete. And the other thing is we have 3 other families that are also interested in modular homes here in Alamosa. We're also looking for other property to be able to put some. We're looking at some property on West 7th that we're looking to possibly purchase to be able to have more land for self-help and our modular homes. So that's my quick update as far as what CRHDC is doing. Any questions or anything?
Council? Councilor Daniel?
Ms. Lucero, thank you for giving us that update. Can you tell us the, the number of families your program has served?
Oh, geez. I know statewide we've served a little over 1,600 families, and that's just self-help. We also started now with modulars, and we're also doing new construction. So anyone that, doesn't have time to put hours in self-help, there's the modular that they can do. We added 1-car or a 2-car garage. And then, like in Monte Vista, we're also going to start a new construction home. And there, the families, don't need to put any hours like self-help. So we're moving in different directions. So we're getting a lot of homes done. Hopefully, make new communities.
I had a question specific to modular homes. Have the rules and regulations been laxed or maybe in a sense, have they been relaxed in a sense to allow those, or have they always been in place? Because my understanding was these are basically stick homes with foundations, and all of a sudden we're having modulars come in as well. Is that something new, or?
We have the modular homes, which are considered stick-built homes. They're manufactured homes because they're built elsewhere, but they are built to the IRC codes. They are put on a foundation, and they are considered stick-built homes as far as when they're being appraised and everything. They're not considered, mobile homes or anything like that. Then you also have the manufactured HUD homes, which are a little bit different, because those ones I don't believe are quite built to, modulars will have, 2x6 walls, drywall, where HUD, some of those things are not there. So that's the difference between the modular and the manufactured HUD.
Thank you for that. Any other questions?
And I got some information, I'll bring it to you, Mr. Lucero.
Thank you very much.
On the
Mrs.
modulars.
Lucero, and we're not related, are we?
No, we're not.
Maybe somewhere in the past.
Maybe way.
Way back there. Thank you
Okay.
so much for your
Thank you.
presentation. Really
Bye-bye.
appreciate it. We'll move forward to business brought forward by city staff. Tonight we have a couple of items from Public Works. We have a request of Carroll
Mayor,
Properties, yes?
Did you want to add the item from the consent calendar before you go into the other items?
We can. Council, is there a motion to add? Councilor. Yeah, we're down to regular business. Councilor Hensley?
So do you need a motion to go ahead and move it down there? So I motion that the item consent calendar C1B, the request of Leroy and Rosalie Martinez for permitted use by special review to allow outdoor dining in a commercial business district, to go ahead and be moved down to business brought forward by city staff. Would that be correct spot for it? Okay.
Thank you.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, start voting, please. Ms. Hawley?
The motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. Then why don't we go ahead and start with the request of Leroy and Rosalie Martinez for permitted use by special review to
Mayor.
allow outdoor dining. Sir?
And Mayor, due to the potential perceived conflict of interest between myself, the company in which I work for, and as well as the potential business owner, I am going to ask you and council that I recuse myself. And I'm also going to ask for permission to leave council chambers so that there won't be any perceived voter influence on my behalf.
Thank you, Councilor Coleman. You may leave. Thank you. So we will continue with the request of Leroy and Rosalie Martinez for a permitted use by special review to allow outdoor dining in a commercial business district. And this is obviously Pat.
Yes, sir. Thank
Pat,
you.
thank you for this.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a request for a permitted use by special review to allow outdoor dining in a commercial business zoning district that was recommended unanimously by the Planning Commission for approval. Staff had one concern. Requests for outdoor dining have become nearly commonplace in Alamosa as businesses seek to meet the desires of their customers by taking full advantage of the short summer season in the valley. Historically, outdoor dining requests have been located in the central business district where off-street parking requirements are waived by code. This request, however, is external to the central business district, so parking should be considered. The site plan submitted by the applicant and attached as a part of your packet depicts a total of 30 parking spaces. The building itself requires 22 spaces by ordinance, and if you choose to add the total area of the outdoor dining request to the parking requirement, it would increase the need to the 30 spaces shown on the site plan. However, the configuration of the lot doesn't allow all 30 spaces to meet the design requirements of Chapter 21, Section 173 of the City Code. That section requires a 24-foot aisle width for backing and turning movements, and several of the parking spaces depicted on the plan are short of that required 24-foot width, will at times result in a cramped and congested parking lot. But the seasonal nature of the outdoor dining request compelled staff and Planning Commission to recommend approval.
Council, do you have any questions of Pat?
So,
Councilor Hensley.
so I'm looking at this, so where the dining is going to be, so are you saying that when it isn't nice weather and there's no dining outside, those actually will become parking spots again, or they're just gone forever as parking spots?
No, they will always be parking spaces. In the winter months, or when it's colder, they will be additional parking spaces
Okay.
above and beyond what is required
That, I just
by
want to make
code.
sure I understood that. Okay, great, thanks.
Okay. Councilor Daniel.
Thank you, Mayor. So Pat, I just want to, reading your letters and things like that, this is not a major concern because of the seasonal nature of the outdoor dining.
That was our position as well as the Planning Commission.
Councilor Hill.
Thank you, Mayor. If there's no further questions, I move that we approve the request of Leroy and Rosalie Martinez for a permitted use by special review to allow outdoor dining in a commercial business zoning district as per the unanimous recommendation of the Planning Commission.
Councilor Hensley.
I second.
I've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the request of Leroy and Rosalie Martinez for a permitted use by special review to allow outdoor dining in a commercial business district? Not? Start voting, please. Ms. Hawley?
The motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. We'll now move on to a request of Carroll Properties LLC for a final plat approval of Carroll Business Park filing number 7. Pat?
Thank you, sir. This property is west of Walmart, just south of the bridge. It's the last piece of property in that area to be platted. This plat is a natural extension of the previous filings in the area. All of the required infrastructure was completed a number of years ago, and the plat is in general conformance with the preliminary plat that was approved. This request will also provide for the development of vacant property across the street to the west from Walmart that has been waiting for development for over 10 years.
Thank you, Pat. Any questions of Pat or comments? Welcome back, Councilor Coleman.
Thank you, Mayor.
I don't, is this a public hearing? Pat?
Yes, sir, it is. It's a.
Okay.
it's a
If there are no
final
questions
plat
or comments, then I'll go ahead and open the public hearing on this request of the Carroll Properties. Anyone wishing to come forward, either for or against this, please come to the podium and state your wishes. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing on the request for the Carroll Properties LLC for a final plat approval. Bring it to council for discussion or a decision. Questions of Pat? Questions, Councilor Hensley?
Well, if there's no other questions, I'll go ahead and move that the council approve this request for Carroll Business Park Filing 7 as per the unanimous recommendation of the Planning Commission by passing resolution number 11, 2016 as presented.
I second.
I've got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, start voting, please. Holly?
The motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. Next up, we have a request of Just Caton for a permitted use by special review to allow an automobile or an automotive repair facility, use group C-15 in a commercial business district, central business district. Pat?
Thank you, sir. The Planning Commission, with a 4-to-1 vote, passed a recommendation for approval of the request of Jess Caton for this permitted use to allow an automotive repair facility in the Central Business District. The recommendation was based on a presentation made by the applicant, the fact that the building has been vacant for a number of years, and letters of support from neighbors on each side. Staff, however, based on information obtained during the public outreach portion of the comprehensive plan, update, and modern urban planning principles and practices, recommended denial. The applicant is proposing to use the old Oscar's restaurant just east of the Bistro restaurant as an automotive repair facility to expand the capacity and capability of his Quick Lube business across the street. One issue the city is trying to achieve with the completion of the new comprehensive plan is the identification of the needs and desires of the residents as they pertain to the downtown area. One item that allows us to accomplish that determination is the evaluation of the built aspects of the existing downtown for those areas that lend themselves to pedestrian activities like restaurants and retail, and those areas that tend to cater more towards vehicle access. Edison Avenue is being considered the line of demarcation between these two uses. East of Edison, the buildings are built to a common front line. Very few have off-street parking, and they commonly share walls. This is indicative of the true downtown area and promotes pedestrian activities and movements on the sidewalk. West of Edison, the lots are bigger, the built setbacks are less consistent, and off-street parking is a more common consideration, allowing the area to be more compatible for vehicular uses. When asked during the public outreach portion of the comprehensive plan how the downtown should be designed and managed, over 89% of the respondents at the public charrettes wanted to see a balance of cars, pedestrians, and cyclists. This would seemingly indicate a desire of the respondents for a more segregated central business district that would cater to more traditional pedestrian uses in those areas that pedestrian uses are supported by those existing improvements.
Thank you, Pat. Any questions or comments for Pat? Councilor Daniel?
Thank you, Mayor. Pat, I have just a clarification question because there wasn't a map on this one. So people would be turning in from Main into that entry, or they would be going on like 6th?
They would access it from the alley in the back,
Okay.
or from Main Street, whichever worked. There's a problem right now with the access on the back. There's a storage building that's owned by WSB that may potentially be removed in the future, but right now it's not going to allow bigger vehicles to make the turn into the parking lot.
Okay.
So they will have to access from the front.
Okay, thank you.
Pat, I had a question myself. The access to that parking lot that we're talking about, will that hinder or have any effect on pedestrian traffic?
Well, it will be, like I said, the vehicles that'll be too big to enter from the back will be driving across the sidewalk in the downtown area.
Okay. Are we going to have any type of signage, or will they have any signage in the area basically explaining that cars will be moving in and out of that area or that parking lot?
That hasn't been discussed. If the permitted use is approved, I was gonna have that discussion with the applicant.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Councilor Hensley.
So when we talk about these automobiles or vehicles that are too big to go through the back, how big is too big?
The way I understand it, 3/4 ton pickups, things like that are going to be too large. They don't have, as I understand it, they don't have any plans or intentions of working on semis or, dump trucks or large commercial vehicles. It's private vehicles, but as we know, they're getting bigger and bigger.
Okay, thank you.
Pat, my understanding is the neighbors don't have an issue with this.
They do not.
The bank or Wall Smith and Bateman don't have
No,
an issue with this.
we had a letter of support from Wall Smith and Bateman, and I spoke to the bistro owner. I spoke to Kent on the phone.
Thank you, Pat. Council? Is this a public hearing as well, Pat?
No, this is a permitted use.
This is a permitted use. Councilor Vihil?
Thank you, Mayor. On Monday, I went and talked to the owner of this business, and he kind of showed me what he was thinking and doing with his property. And one thing that intrigues me is that it's gonna occupy an empty building in the downtown that's been empty for a long time. That coupled with the fact that both the neighbors are for it and don't see a problem with it, I think is a good thing as well. One thing I would like to add is the owner of the bistro did have one little concern about the noise, the drills and that. And Mr. Caton told me that they would, if this were to go through, they would get them in to the building, they would do some drilling, and if it's too much, they would build a new wall and stuff it with insulation and that type of stuff. As far as the coming in and out of the alleyway, and I don't know if this is new information, but like I said, I talked to him on Monday. Because that corner is real tight, he was thinking of maybe taking away a piece of the building on the corner to make it more accessible, that type of stuff. So I don't know if...
Okay, that would be new. That wasn't talked about at the Planning Commission hearing.
Yep. Okay.
And the applicant hasn't talked to me directly.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilor Hensley?
So I kind of agree. I feel like that with this business, I know it's not necessarily the perfect fit, but at the same time, from everything I've understood, is that they are going to put the facade and really present it in the sense on the front side so that it will lend itself to everything that's going on. And I guess part of me, I do see that where we want to really build the downtown, but I do think we have, obviously Caton's has done very well, has been a really strong part of our downtown right now with what they do and everything there. And this has been a building that has been empty for a long time, and it does feel like, from everything I've heard as well, is that they really are trying to really lend themselves to what the ultimate goals are, and are willing to put that extra in to be part of that downtown and the way it wants to develop.
Councilor Coleman?
Thank you, Mayor. In addition to them occupying a vacant building, the thing I like is I like to see our local small businesses grow and expand. When they grow and expand, what happens is they're able to hire new people in the community or create additional jobs, and I think that's going to be beneficial for our entire community as well. And seeing that they've done what they can do to make sure that they accommodate their neighbors, like Councilman Vihil and Councilor Hensley mentioned, it's good to see that. That means that we're going to have some good collaboration between the businesses downtown. So I'm glad to see that.
Councilor Daniel?
Thank you, Mayor. So I remembered something that I read in the minutes. It says that the employees will be shuttling the vehicles, or will regular people like me trying to avoid pedestrian traffic?
One of their plans was to use the existing waiting room at their current building, and employees would shuttle the vehicles back and forth while the customers waited in their waiting room across the street.
Okay, thank you.
Council, one of the, again, I'm going to reiterate a concern that I have. I think if we could maybe ask the business to put signage there that say cars are either ingressing or egressing in that area, I think that would be helpful for our pedestrian traffic, because at this point in time, I would think that pedestrians are just used to walking up and down that, and all of a sudden we're going to have cars in and out of there, and so maybe just an informational sign of some kind. If we could include that, that would I think alleviate a lot of the concerns that I have for pedestrian traffic. Councilor Vihil?
Thank you, Mayor. If there's no further discussion or questions, I move that we approve the request of Jess Caton for permitted use by special review to allow an automotive repair facility in a commercial business district.
Councillor Hensley.
I second.
I've got a motion and a second on a request by Jess Caton for permitted use by special review. Is there any further discussion or questions? Seeing none. Start voting, please. Ms. Hawley?
The motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. We'll now move on to business brought forward by the Police Department. Police Chief? Chief Oakes, thank you for being here, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight we have a need for a public hearing for ordinance number 14-2016. An ordinance approving the intergovernmental agreement with the Alamosa School District to provide a school resource officer from the Alamosa Police Department to the Alamosa School District. It's staff's recommendation that after public hearing, that we approve the intergovernmental agreement with the school district. As I stated 2 weeks ago, when I presented this at the initial hearing, this is an agreement that we've had with the school district for several years to provide an officer from the police department to work within the school district. It is not an additional position that we are adding by doing this. This is an officer that's already on staff, and he will work within the school district itself. So therefore, there is no fiscal impact to the city or the police department.
Thank you, Chief. And with that, I will open the public hearing on ordinance number 14-2016. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak for or against this ordinance, please approach the podium and state your wishes. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing on ordinance number 14-2016 and bring it back to council for a decision or further discussion. Councillor Daniels.
Thank you, Mayor. If there's no discussion, I would recommend that we approve ordinance number 1416, approving an IGA intergovernmental agreement with the Alamosa School District to provide a school resource officer from the Alamosa Police Department to the school district.
I second.
Councillor Coleman.
I second.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on ordinance number 14-2016? Seeing none, for voting, please. Ms. Hawley?
The motion carried unanimously.
Thank you, Council. We will now move on to committee reports. Does anyone have a committee report? Councillor Hensley.
So I actually really enjoyed going to our little outing that we had at the golf course last Thursday, but I had to leave early because I did have to go to the marketing board meeting. One of the big things that obviously is coming up is the barbecue that's going to happen here the weekend after this. And one of the things to really promote, they're actually adding a few things. So if people are interested, is they're doing a kids barbecue on Friday, and they're also doing a barbecue where you bring your own barbecue, and then they'll provide you with ribeyes, and whoever makes the best ribeye steaks. So again, that's really encouraged for local people to participate in both of those, and those are on Friday evening. So if people are interested, definitely going to the website and signing up for that.
Thank you, Councillor Hensley. Councillor Vihil.
Yes, just one thing from the school district, and I think we saw this in the paper last week. They're going to put on the ballot this upcoming election to the voters about term limits as a school board member. So that's pretty much it.
Thank you very much. So we will move on to staff announcements. Pat, do you have any announcements?
Just one quick one that I'm aware of. We just want to make sure and remind everybody about the City Services Fair. July 27th starts at 4:30. Other than that, it's pretty quiet.
Thank you very much, Pat. Move on now to council comment. Councilor Daniel.
Thank you, Mayor. I did want to say I really appreciated how many people started the meeting today, so that was pretty wonderful. And hearing from our community is always fantastic. And I do intend, I know Ruthie's not here, but I do intend to get with her and schedule some time as she requested. I just want to say thank you too to the county commissioners. I don't know, sometimes I think people don't necessarily hear that we're communicating very well, and so the meeting that we had with them recently was very helpful. And then I just also wanted to say congratulations to Holly and the chief for getting the JAG grant after they went back and appealed the decision. So way to go, you guys. I think that's going to be a huge help in our court. So we really appreciate the extra effort it took to go up there and to do that. So thank you.
Good. Very good. I don't have a comment this evening except for the fact that it was a great rally that the wives of some of our police officers had over at, what is that, Main and West 285. Wow, what a wonderful show of force for parents, wives, children of our police officers. You know, there are so many things going on in our country specific to our police. And here in Alamosa, it was just refreshing to see the support that our police officers are getting from the community. And we owe them a big debt of gratitude that, because one thing for sure is I don't think I'd want to be a policeman. I don't think I'm cut out for it, but I sure appreciate it and I sure respect the people that do the job for us and do it on our behalf. Councilor Coleman.
I'm going to yield to Councilman Vigil. He was before me, Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry. Councilor Vigil.
Thank you. Just two quick things. One, I want to give a kudos to Pat's staff. They've been getting after it on the streets, painting the curbs, cleaning the streets, and it's starting to look really nice. It's always looked nice, I think, but it's really tip-top right now. Also, would like to comment on Ruthie Brown's deal with the two young boys and making a day for them or a proclamation or what have you. I don't know the details, but I'm wondering if our council can come together and talk about this a little bit and try to make this right. Thank you.
Councilor Vigil, I'll answer that. I had an opportunity to visit with our city manager and our city clerk on Tuesday morning and expressed some of my viewpoints and some of the limitations that we have specific to proclaiming a day for a specific individual. I did, however, bring up the point that it was something that council should probably have a work session on where we can discuss it in detail and eventually formulate a policy that is all-inclusive or whatever we think is important in that area. And so that hopefully will be coming up once our city manager gets back and she can work with our city clerk. We can put that on the agenda for a work session so we can discuss it and look at it and modify it or do whatever we'd like to do with that.
Thank you.
So that's where we're at with that, Councilor Vigil.
Thank you for the
the argument has not fallen on deaf ears. It is the responsibility of the mayor to make that determination. I believe that I made the correct determination. If council wishes to alter that in any way, shape, or form, I'm more than willing to be open to any changes. Councilor Coleman.
Thank you, Mayor. I just would like to thank Jolene for all the effort and work that she put into putting on the barbecue that we went to last week. And I would like to thank all the city staff and employees, family members who showed up in support of their family members who work for the city. The work that you all do is so important, and I just want the entire community to know that the city that we live in, the reason why the city that we live in right now is so special is in part because of the people who work for our city. So, and also the last thing is I too and all of the council members who are here today supported the police officers and the families and law enforcement officers from the entire San Luis Valley today. And it was really great to see everyone here represented. And thank you so much, because when you show up to events like that, it lets the community know that you care. So keep showing that you care. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Coleman. And in closing, I have one last kudo, and that goes out to Heinz. I had a woman contact me a few days ago saying that the grass over at the cemetery was not looking so well, and she was very unhappy because one of her loved ones was buried there, and it just didn't look good. And I think Heinz and his crew got on board, and the next thing you know, she stopped by my office today and said, "I want you to thank Heinz." And so Heinz, thank you on behalf of this person, and I think you know who she is. But you do such a great job with our cemetery and our Parks and Rec. Thank you very much, and thanks to all the others as well, all our department heads. Thank you. And so with that, there are no further council comments. I will adjourn this meeting. Meeting adjourned. Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Hensley.